Class, my name is Jacoya Rockmore, and I'm going to be telling you a little bit about myself. Um, so we'll start here. That's me. So the type of schools I attended a lot of different schools growing up. Um, in pre-K, I attended a very diverse school. I meant kindergarten. I'm sorry. As you can see, that got less diverse as I got older. I actually started in this same school system, City Schools of Decatur, and graduated high school in that same school system. But between that time, kindergarten and high school, 12th grade, I went to uh, to about 4 or 5 different schools. So I moved around a lot. And that's me right there. All right. So, like I said, I went to Decatur High School, and that's Decatur. It's a pretty good high school right now. Back then it was too, but right now they've gotten even better and they're ranked pretty high in schools in Georgia. Then I went to Tuskegee University. It's an HBCU in Tuskegee, Alabama. Decatur High School, by the time I got there, was predominantly white, upper class families. I did not fit into that mold. Um, and so for those 4 years, I had been around a lot of people that were not like me. Not to say it was a bad experience, it was a great experience. There were people who did look like me, but for the most part, there weren't. So when I went to college, I decided to go to a college that was predominantly black, just to get a completely different experience. And I love Tuskegee. Then I did not graduate from Tuskegee. I transferred to Ashford, and where I completed my bachelor's. This is my family. Some people in my family, not my entire family, of course, but I'll start here with this little guy. That is my son, Kobe. He is currently 9 years old. He's a pretty big guy. In that picture, he was 8. I'll skip over here. This is me here with Kobe and some cousins, and that's my sister. That's my great grandmother. She passed away late last year. Right here is my dad and my 2 little brothers, Derek and Devontae. Unfortunately, Devontae passed away very recently in a kayaking incident, and that picture really resonated with me, so I wanted to include it. My educational levels, in high school, I had the opportunity to get a dual tech diploma. So the cool thing about our high school is that you could do that, and we had an daycare center right on campus. So I got to work at the daycare center for one period a day while I was in high school. And that was something I was very excited about because I knew that I wanted to be a teacher and or own a daycare center one day. So when I went to Tuskegee for a few years, and I actually left because I had my son, and I wanted a support system to help me with him. So I came back home, and a few years later, ended up at Ashford University, where I graduated with a Bachelor's of Arts in Early Childhood Education Administration. And I chose that major because it allowed me to still teach in a school, but have the degree to help me own a daycare center one day if I wanted to still take that route. I'm currently pursuing a master's of education with a specialization in leadership in the 21st century. Again, looking for those skills that will help me be a leader in either a daycare center or a school. Who knows? All right, so to summarize everything, that's me and my son. Uh, About my name, there's a funny story to my last name, um, which is Rockmore, but I'm African American, so my ancestors were slaves. And before my great grandfather, it was Rocky Moore. But all of my family members were born in a home. My ancestors were born inside a house. They did not have birth certificates, and they simply did not know how to spell our last name. So it went from Rocky Moore to Rockmore. The Y was dropped because one of my ancestors didn't know how to spell it, and when he wrote it down, he wrote Rockmore. My first name is Jacoya. It's a very unique name, and growing up, I really didn't like it because no one could say it, so it was pretty annoying. I didn't start liking it until probably around high school, college, because I started to appreciate the uniqueness of it. So to summarize the type of environment in which um, I was raised in an environment. I was raised in a pretty good environment. My parents were never married, but I always had a relationship with my mom and my father. It was just a separate relationship. Um, and looking back, I realized at some point that we were pretty poor, but I didn't know that then, because I always felt like I had what I needed. I felt like I had more than kids around me, so I always felt privileged until I got to high school and I was in that predominantly white school. I started feeling like I had little less, I started realizing things. Um, but I didn't grow up feeling that I lacked anything, and I feel like I was raised in a pretty good environment, and everything around me and everything about my upbringing made me the type of person that I am. And so I can appreciate that. I especially appreciate the fact that I went to so many different schools. Now, a lot of people might be like, why? You just bounced around. But it's because I got to see so many different types of people and how they live on two opposite sides of the spectrum. And it made me appreciate everything. It gave me empathy. So I feel like it made me be able to empathize with all types of people because I've known all types of people. So I really appreciate that about my upbringing. So the last one, describe in detail the type of education you receive. So, like I said, my education was very different because I bounced all over the place. I went to the city schools of Decatur, is where I went in kindergarten, the picture I showed you, and in high school. And there's a really good school system, and it still is. It's ranked amongst one of the highest in the state of Georgia. So I went to a really good school. And then in middle school, um, I went to like the local public schools. They weren't as good. Um, and then for about 4 years, I went to private school. That was kind of the first culture shock I ever got. It was predominantly black, but they were middle class and upper class black people, and I wasn't that either. So I really didn't feel like I fit in. So um, it was a little harder for me there at first, because I didn't know, honestly, that Black people could live like that. So it was just all a big shock for me. Going to college was never something that anyone else in my family had done. So it's kind of the reason why I picked those chains, those breaking chains on the first slide. No one in my family graduated from college, um, or high school. Um, Most of them didn't graduate from high school either. Um, so I I broke a couple generational curses, what I like to call them, And I plan to keep doing that and to just keep achieving as much as I can achieve and going as far as I can go so that I can create a different history for my son and future generations of my family. All right, I hope you enjoyed. Have a great day.